Do you see it saying that it's recording now?
Yes, it does.
All right, it doesn't show on mine. Okay. Uh, well, good to see you again, Corey. How's your practice? Tell me about your practice.
For me at the moment, it's I am feeling with my practices is going well. It's just more catching myself in daily life,
Mm-hmm.
and bringing myself back, waking up, and just recognizing, because sometimes I've noticed myself going on a tangent, planning lots of things, and I just have to bring myself back. So I've definitely been noticing that because a lot of things are happening, and I'm working on that.
Actually, it's very good to remind the students and friends to actually take the time. I don't necessarily want to call it a formal practice because that gives everybody the wrong idea. So there's somewhere between catching yourself in daily life, which is what you're talking about, and a formal practice, which would be, going off and getting special meditation cushions and going to a meditation hall, retreats, all of that kind of stuff. And to find that there's a middle balance, a middle path. Always the middle path is the best. You've heard me talk about that. That in fact, when the Buddha said that he only teaches one thing, dukkha, dukkha nirodha, I would say that that's the middle path. Okay, that everything winds up being somewhere in that sweet spot in the middle. And so what I would recommend is to have, let us call it a semi-formal practice, though that's a little bit rough too. But there are moments, for instance, for me, when I'm in bed, and whatever is happening, might be watching the cell phone or playing Sudoku or watching a video or something like that, and then I'll remember. Or another thing that will happen is that there will be some bodily sensation, and that will spark to remember. And that means that then we're going to remember to start this semi-formal or more an informal middle path practice of just laying in bed, if that's the place that you are, and just remember to take a few deep breaths. Bring sati to the fore and begin to remember and saying things like, everything's all right, everything's going to be okay, all is well, no problems. If there's any anxiety, then you can breathe into that and say, calm down, there's no place to go, everything is really good right now. We can also do that when we're driving the car, is to remember to watch where we're going. But while we're watching where we're going, we can also watch where we're going mentally and bring that back to an example of that is people will be in a hurry when they're driving. They want to get to the destination. And that when we're driving, it's a good idea to say, everything is okay. We'll get there in plenty of time. There's no worries, no problems. Everything is going to be okay. And so we start practicing that part of the path of remembering to wake up, to look at what we're doing, and to make this little change over and over and over again. We actually want to do this 5, 10, 20, 30 times a day, because that will then develop that sati to such a high degree so that when we get off into the world and we have to deal with the world, we'll remember that, hey, even though this guy is yelling at me, even though he's criticizing me, everything's all right, no worries. He doesn't know who I am. I don't know who I am. Whoever he's criticizing is something in his own mind. and I'm okay. Everything is all right. Everything is fine. And so this is what I would recommend to all of the students, to not go way off into a very, very formal practice, that the only item that's important is that we're not talking to somebody, we're in seclusion. That we're in the room by ourselves, or we're in the car by ourselves, or even if somebody's in the car, we're not talking to them right then. We're just driving. And then we'll remember, everything is okay. I don't have to be in a hurry. There's no reason to get upset. And we can take a few deep breaths and keep practicing coming back to the fore, coming back to the present moment over and over and over again. Because if we do that, then that greatly increases the frequency of the times that we enter into the first jhana. Greatly increases the frequency of going into the first jhana. And the Buddha is fairly clear, but the way that the suttas are done is kind of obscure. But he made a point of it in one sutta that the first jhana, which is being in that relaxed, happy state, everything is okay, everything is satisfying, no worries, no doubts, no fear, that everything's safe and secure and comfortable. Getting into that state, when we're in that state, that's enlightenment. That's the whole goal. But we need to keep going into it until we get really good at going into it.
Mm.
I
think actually,
go ahead.
Last week when I was formally practicing, I think that actually happened because I'm not skilled enough to know what jhanas, but I believe that I fell into first jhana last week because a big smile just came up on my face and all my thoughts just stopped, and I just felt like I was just a total bliss.
Yes, everything is just really hunky-dory. Everything is fine. And that we have to practice doing that, because we have, whenever it does happen, and it happens on a regular but infrequent basis, and it happens by accident or without any planning. And what we're doing here is we're intentionally practicing doing that, to keep going into that state. And the more often that we practice throughout the day, then the easier it will be to go into that state. And that's a skill that we need to develop, is to going into that state of everything's fine. Wow, no worries, no problems, everything is just fine. And what happens is that when people get fairly good at practicing that, and then they say, wow, everything really is okay, and then they stop practicing formally, they only practice it when they remember throughout the day. But what I'm saying is that there's no need to set an alarm, but that might be a good idea, that or something to help remind you that I don't have to be reading this book. I can close my eyes and get back into homeostasis and get in a sense of well-being for 5 or 10 minutes, and then open eyes and read some more of the book. Take frequent breaks is a way of thinking about it. Is take a break often and get out of whatever we were busy doing and start practicing being in a really wonderful state of mind.
I was wondering, Dhammarato, when I was talking to my my friends at the Wat, the charnel ground meditations, were they a teaching of the Buddha or not?
Yes, but he abandoned that. There was a story, in fact, of this was very early in his teaching career, and that he put a bunch of guys into doing charnel ground meditations, and then went off someplace on a roundabout, walkabout, and then come back and there were a few of them left. And in fact, there was quite a few of them that were there that were in the charnel ground permanently for the charnel ground. They weren't visitors to the charnel ground. And that he figured out that the value of the charnel ground is not something that you want to make a consistent practice of, but the rationale or the reason for the charnel ground meditations is for us to begin to see very clearly life is short. Let's make the most of it. Things are going to happen. We're going to die. Let's have a party until the party's over. Let's not have a misery pity party until the party's over. Let's have joy. And that what happens with the charnel ground, if we get too much into it, we get kind of depressed. Like, yeah, life really is short. I'm going to make sure it is.
Right.
And so that's why that was actually one of the issues that was brought up with Bhikkhu Buddhadasa when he says that the Buddha only taught one kind of meditation or one kind of practice, and that was Anapanasati. That many things have been taught about that, and one of the things that is mentioned is that this Anapanasati practice is good for everybody, to where the charnel ground meditations are only good for a select few. Nowadays, we don't have charnel grounds. At best, we have cemeteries. That, in fact, I have led a group of students on a retreat out to a cemetery, actually on a blind walk, and took them to an area of the cemetery that was old, not really old. I think the graves were around 1940s, 1950s in that area. And it was really, really peaceful. And getting into that state, because nobody goes to a charnel ground, but the charnel ground, actually, you know what it is? It's where it's a dumping. It's the city dump for human bodies. That's what they would do back then. Because if you have an area that is remote, then there's not a problem with the stench if nobody's around there. And that's the easy way to do it. It's kind of like burial at sea, except you just lay the body out on the ground and just let it take care of itself. That doesn't require a funeral pyre. That doesn't require digging any holes. But in fact, in a way, it's a kind of an air meditation, and that's referred to in the sense that then the vultures will come out of the air and chew up on the body. Or worms can come and just decompose the body right then and there. But like I said, the Buddha stopped doing that kind of meditation because it's not suitable for a lot of people. I would say, in fact, that the people that it's really, really good for, but not on a really strong, steady diet of day after day after day, but occasionally people who are really greedy, people who are into money, people who are really into sex, people who are really into wanting and wanting and wanting and wanting. For them, the charnel ground meditations are pretty good, but not overdone. And since you really don't have a charnel ground anymore, we have to make some sort of substitute. And one of the things that Goenka had, he had several videos of autopsies. And so I would recommend on YouTube, there's some autopsies. One of them is a joke. It's a snippet from a movie called Dead and Loving It. It was a Mel Brooks movie, and that it was about Dracula, but Mel Brooks actually played a doctor, and that he did an autopsy in front of a bunch of students, and his whole plan was to make them sick and pass out over that autopsy. It's quite humorous. And I published it on the Skype from time to time, because that's a better way of looking at it, recognizing that we're all going to die and remembering that. And so that's what the value of the charnel ground meditations are. But we don't have the possibility of doing charnel ground meditations. Another possibility would be to go on let us say, a planned visit, tell them that you're coming, make an appointment, and go to a morgue. Almost all hospitals have a morgue in the basement someplace. Or maybe the county has a morgue where they keep dead bodies. Or the other possibility is go to a funeral home. Now, the problem with a funeral home is that they're trying to make that body look as alive as possible. They put makeup on it. They put formaldehyde and embalming fluids in it and try to make it human again. And in fact, the whole point of the charnel ground meditation is to see the body as it's rotting, as it's decomposing, as it gets bloated and livid, and the skin breaks open because of the bloating. And then the later meditations, they say that there's 10 meditations, but really it's one body that goes through stages. From rigor mortis, then into the bloating, and then into the decomposition, and then when there's only sinew left to keep the bones together, and then that rots, but the bones are still in order, and then the bones get scattered. And so these are the various points of the charnel ground meditation. But I don't recommend that. I recommend that you reflect on being here right now. That's the way, with the idea of someday I'm going to die. I'm happy right now. Can I be happy as I'm dying? Can I be happy when I go to the hospital? Can I be happy when I get arrested? Can I be happy when the bank is drained out? Can I be happy with the police coming to the door? That's the kind of thing. And if we can say, yes, I can be happy even as I'm dying, I mean, that's the worst possible thing that can happen. Generally, that's the way people think of. And so I generally ask it in this regard. What is really important? Not the most, that's a superlative, but what's really important? Whatever it is that's important, when you're dead, it's not important.
Mm-hmm.
If you're dead, then your bank account and your car and your trophy wife or the lovely dogs or the house that you lived in, the expensive clothing, any of that kind of stuff is no longer important when you're dead. Which means then the only really thing that's important is being alive. And we're going to die anyway, so the important things are always going to be temporary. Can we enjoy being alive? Because that's the only thing that's really alive, or that's really important. And then the next point about it, that I would generally say it this way, that, Corey, you're going to be dead in 5 minutes. No doubt about it. You're going to be dead in 5 minutes, but there is a reprieve. And that is take the next breath. If you take the next breath, you'll get another 3 or 4 minutes. And if you take another breath after that, you'll get another 3 or 4 minutes. But when you stop breathing, death is on your doorstep. In fact, it's beating down the door. And this is why people will go into such great agony when they can't breathe. I mean, you've seen movies or things to where somebody's being choked to death, and they get all over the place. They don't think very well when we're being choked. Or maybe the pillow is over the head and people will flail around. Or maybe we're drowning and we'll get to the surface to get air. It becomes it's the only thing to do. There's nothing else to do but to take that next breath. And this fits in really well with Anapanasati. Why? Because the breathing now, in this regard, becomes the only important thing that we've got to do. So let's pay attention to the breathing. The breathing is important. Keeps us alive. No breathing, no life. No life, nothing. So it's important to breathe. And if it's that important that it's life-giving, if it's that important, then why aren't we paying any attention to it?
Mm.
And hence we have Anapanasati, mindfully breathing. Let's start putting some awareness, paying attention to the breath, because it's that important. It's vital.
Right. I was listening to a talk you were doing a while back, and you were referencing that the Satipatthana Sutta is more like an advancing of the Anapanasati. Is that correct? The way you were.
Actually, what it says in the sutta is that we practice Anapanasati for the fulfillment of the four foundations of mindfulness. In other words, if we're going to practice the four foundations of mindfulness, Anapanasati is the way to do it. With the breathing, we start with the Kaya Nupassana, which is the body. And with the breathing, the intention is to know the body well, to know the anxieties, to know the tensions, to know what's going on in the body, so that the next point is so that we can relax the body. Let's get the body to relax, okay? And that those charnel ground meditations are all in the body part of the Satipatthana Sutta. In fact, that's where the charnel ground meditations are mentioned, is in the Satipatthana Sutta. But basically, we can say that all that you are, everything about your existence, is a body, feelings, the states of mind, and the mind's objects. That's 100% of you. And we kind of break it down in that way. You've heard about being drawn and quartered. Well, these are the four quarters of existence. And that we practice Anapanasati with all four of them. And as we practice Anapanasati for the fulfillment of mindful of the body, mindful of the feelings, mindful of the mental states, and mindful of the mental objects, that's what Anapanasati is designed to do. But it's also really more designed to get one into the first jhana. And so when we say then that we practice Anapanasati for the fulfillment of the four foundations, the Satipatthana, we practice the Satipatthana for the fulfillment of the seven factors of enlightenment, the Sambhojana. Now, here's a point. In the Satipatthana Sutta, there's both a regular one, number 10 in the Majjhima Nikaya, and also I think it's number 22 in the Digha Nikaya, and the Digha Nikaya version is much longer. But I have been informed that the long version in Thai language has been taken out and put of the number 10 and put the long version in there. So there's just one Satipatthana Sutta because the only main difference is the last part of it, where it goes into the Four Noble Truths and specifically the Eightfold Noble Path in quite a detail. Now, here's the reason I'm mentioning this is that when we fulfill the four foundations of mindfulness and the to bring about the fulfillment of the Sambhojana, that means then there's a big relationship between the Eightfold Noble Path and the seven factors of enlightenment. And what is that? One is the practice, one is the method, but when that method is fulfilled, they become each one of them enlightenment factors. Okay, what are the enlightenment factors then? Is that we have unremitting mindfulness. We keep coming back to unremitting mindfulness. If we remember to keep coming back, we come back to look. So we also have unremitting investigation. But as that develops, the right effort now becomes an energy supply all its own. That it becomes not just effortless, but it jumps. The way to think of it is like a jack in the box. You turn that little screw and it jumps out. So this is the way that when you see something that needs to be changed, you don't have to drag yourself up to it to do it. You jump to it. Okay? An example of that would be constipated, to where we have to work really hard to take a dump, versus having diarrhea, where we're running to get to the toilet. That's the energy, okay? And so actually we're turning constipation into diarrhea, so that let's go. You feel that urge, you're going to go right now, okay? So this is the way that we think of the 7 factors of enlightenment, that effort, that is raw effort in the beginning, now becomes an energetic sort of thing. And with that, the next number 4 in that is the piti sukha, which without effort, it arises. Those 2 qualities in the Anapanasati Sutta become one quality, and it's in the Pali, it's referred to as just one word, piti sukha. That's the very, very joyful, feeling gratitude, feeling satisfied, feeling energetic, feeling on top of the world. Okay, and with that becomes rest and peace. That part of Anapanasati where we bring the body to a state of tranquility or rest, now we bring everything to a rest. And with that, everything congeals, it comes together. This is what we mean by right unification of mind. And with that is equanimity or balance. But it's not, it's kind of a dynamic balance, but it's sort of like they've been experimenting this with robots. You know, you can walk up to somebody and you can push them really hard and you'll push them down. But if you've got your balance, then somebody comes and pushes you hard, it may push you back, but you don't fall down. You maintain your equanimity, your equilibrium. Right? So if somebody comes and yells at you or criticizes you, it doesn't affect you. You can keep your equilibrium. Can't hurt me, can't touch me.
I see.
Okay, so those are the 7 factors of enlightenment, which are in fact the Eightfold Noble Path as it's being fulfilled, rather than as it's being practiced. And the difference is that our mindfulness now is unremitting, that we will come back to mindfulness very quickly, that we'll be reading the book and then we'll say, wait a minute, I'm going to put that book down and take a deep breath and relax and be alive, be real. I am not that book. Or I'm watching a video and then I put that video down and say, relax, I am not that video. And so this is why we want to practice often, is so that we can bring that mindfulness, bring that sati up to the point to where it's unrepenting. Now, what I mean by unremitting is not that it's there all the time, but that it comes back easy. The example I use is a drum and a drum mallet. So here is the drum and here is the mallet. Is this the way to hit a drum?
No.
No. How about this?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, so this is what we mean by unremitting mindfulness, is it keeps coming back and coming back and coming back, and it needs to be practiced until it is. And so the way to do that is actually with the breathing, because we have to remember to take an in breath, and we have to remember to take an out breath. There's that sati, that remembrance, and we can practice that. We also practice to remember to have a good thought, to gladden the mind, to change our mood. And then we also can change our feelings, that we can feel the way that we want to feel rather than feeling the way that we're in the habit of feeling. And we want to come to the point of our skill has developed to the point that it just keeps coming back. It keeps coming back. That we don't stay away from that mindfulness very long. That we can read a book and then we'll remember, hot dog, here I am. So it has to be repeated over and over again, because every new moment is a brand new moment, time to practice again.
Mm.
And every new moment, if you can remember to keep coming back to the mindfulness, then it's an enlightenment factor.
And when you come back, I sometimes have to catch myself to, when I come back, is not be annoyed with myself, just come back and just remind myself, rather than catching myself and thinking, oh, I stuffed up.
Yeah. So that's because we are in the habit of being critical of ourselves. We're judging ourselves. And we need to come out of that habit by saying, aha, I see my criticism. Aha, I can see that I'm hard on myself. No need to criticize. Let's nurture. Yeah, you screwed up, so what? Never mind. Continue on. Get up and walk on. A pity party is, in fact, when that gets big time. Somebody recognizes that they're screwed up. Oh, poor me. Oh, I'm screwed up. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, what am I going to do? Oh, this is the end of me, and all of those kind of thoughts. And the answer to that is, wake up. Yeah, you screwed up. So what? Never mind. Go fix it. Or never mind, just leave it there and go do something else. And everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be just fine. No worries. So this is how we practice. And so this is what they mean by the Satipatthana, is these four elements of ourselves. And we need to keep watching those. We want to intentionally relax the body, because relaxing the body, the mind has to relax in order for the body to relax. And then our feelings will relax. And then our thinking will relax. And everything gets very easy.
Makes sense.
So you go off and practice that. Remember to practice. Remember that you don't need to be in a formal meditation situation. Just remember to put that book down and take another deep breath and say, wow, I'm glad I remembered to do that. Put ourselves in a really good mood. And then we pick the book back up and start reading again. Or we can do that while driving. Oh, I don't have to be in a hurry. Everything is going to work out. We're going to have enough gas to get to the gas station, or whatever the worries are. Going with the flow. Find out what the traffic flow is and go with that, and everything's going to be okay. And we keep coming back to that. Then, in fact, that's a very little thing. If people would watch the road, it's a little thing just to watch the road. But when we're not watching the road, we're eating a McDonald's, or we're fussing at the kids, or we're on the cell phone, or we're lost in thought, we're daydreaming, or whatever, and then the accident happens. That's a big disaster. And the big disaster happens simply because of the little thing of just not paying attention. So people who practice mindfulness wind up being very good drivers. They can see that pothole way down the road, so they can plan on missing it. They can figure out, can I straddle it, or can I go around it, or do I have to stop? Because we're watching the road. Okay, so this is what the real practice is let's watch. Let's watch how we feel, because we have some control over it. We have the right effort if we know what to do. And we need to know what to do by watching.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll practice that, Dhammarato. Thank you very much for that.
All right. Well, we don't have much time, so why don't we go ahead and finish this call? I think that we've gotten the point across.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dhammarato. That's been fantastic.
I'm really glad you called.
Awesome. Thank you.
Excellent. We'll see you again soon, Corey.
Will do. Thanks, Dhammarato.
Bye-bye.